Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rick Isbell, and I will be your Master of Ceremonies today for the 9/11 Patriots' Day Remembrance. Everyone in the hallway, please come in and take your seats. I'd like to ask you all to please rise. Ted Mosier of the Catholic War Veterans will give the invocation.
Let us pray. God, we ask you to join us as we gather in this commemoration of the attack on our country on 9/11/2001. We remember the sacrifices of the victims and the heroism of the first responders. We also honor the service of our armed forces since that terrible day, particularly those men and women who have given their lives in the effort to preserve our freedom. God, we ask that you bestow your blessings on the families of the victims of that attack and also on the families of our fallen warriors. In your name we pray. Amen.
Please remain standing. Sorry, sir. I would like to bring Steve Ebersol from the 12th District American Legion to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
One more. And now it is my pleasure to bring Mr. Rob McNeil from our City Building Services as he sings our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Now you can be seated. Rob, you just keep getting better. Thank you very much for coming out. I would like to thank Mayor Coleman for helping us make this event possible. And I would also like to make introductions. From Senator Brown's office, we have Ben Famous. Representing Senator Portman's office, Michael Dussman. From Congressman Teaberry's office, Mark Bell. Representing Congressman Stivers is Steve Cheek. From Ohio Attorney General DeWine's office, Richard Stobbs. With us today from the Ohio Department of Veteran Services, Assistant Director Jason Dominguez. Next to Mayor Coleman is Franklin County Commissioner Paula Brooks. Representing our great City Council, we have City Council President Pro Tem A. Troy Miller, Eileen Paley, and Herschel Craig, who also heads up our Veterans Committee. City of Columbus Chief of Police Kim Jacobs is here today. City of Columbus Fire Chief Greg Paxton. Our Director of Public Safety, Mitch Brown. Our Health Commissioner for Public Health, Dr. Teresa Long. FOP Lodge Number 9 President, Jim Gilbert. IAFF Local 67 Vice President, John Capretta. Let me see, I'll take that back. Oh, Ask Me 1632? No. Yeah, I'm sorry. Doug Moore is in the back there. Doug, welcome. And CMOJ 4502 President Dave McCune, are you in the office? There's Dave. Thank you, Dave, for coming out today. COWIC President CEO Susan Coleman Tolbert, the jobs lady, she's supposed to be here too. And in the back there, Commander John R. Sturba from the Columbus NOSC, and Colonel Blake, representing the Adjutant General's office, is here as well. Thank you for coming today. We have many deputy chiefs, commanders, and first responders here today. Would you all please rise? These are the people who run towards the danger and never flinch. I'd like to thank you all for what you do for us every day and for keeping us safe. I'd also like to thank Major Klepek and Master Sergeant Gibson of the Downtown High School Junior ROTC for providing the young future leaders who are here to escort everyone today. Thank you very much. And finally, thank you to the City Veterans Committee for all their hard work in making this happen. We all know this is the 11th anniversary of the day that has changed the world. And although 11 years have passed, the wounds are still fresh, and we're still feeling it in our hearts. It's a day that seemed that it stopped the world. I want to thank all of you for being here today. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to our city that we do hold this every year, because we should hold this every year. And now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, our Mayor of the City of Columbus will say a few words, present a proclamation. Ladies and gentlemen, Mayor Michael B. Coleman.
Thank you, Rick, and I should always remember this day. I'm one of the few mayors in the country that is still mayor, that was a mayor on that day of 9/11/2001. And I'll never forget it, because it was a mixture of hurt, pride, and it changed me as a person and as a mayor forever. We should never forget that day. That day changed America. I remember that day very well. And we should never forget it because really 4 reasons. Number one is, what were you doing on that day? At that moment, when those planes flew into the World Trade Center. And the second thing is the lives that were lost. And third, the heroism that we saw and the unity that we experienced. And I think about what I was doing on that day. I was in this building, down the hallway, meeting with a couple dozen business leaders to talk about the future of downtown. And an aide came into my office and gave me a note, said something terrible is happening in New York City. And I looked at my watch and it was about 8:45-ish. We need you in the mayor's office. I opened the door, turned on the TV, and I saw the second plane fly into the tower. Totally shocked. And with me were consultants that we had hired whose offices were in New York City. About 4 or 5 of them. And I called them in. I said, we have to terminate this meeting. We have to send all these executives home to their businesses, and we need to evacuate downtown. How do we get you back to New York? and they immediately broke down because they had family, friends, and relatives in those towers. They watched from my TV members of their family and friends die before their eyes. And I looked, and we pulled together the command, the fire chief and the police chief, deputy chief, chiefs, and we began a process of evacuating downtown. We got word that a plane was entering Ohio airspace and that we needed to be concerned. All the planes had been grounded in the United States and at Port Columbus. And that plane entered Ohio airspace on its way to Columbus-Cleveland direction and turned around. And that plane crashed in the fields of Pennsylvania. I remember that our first responders had cast a net throughout the city of Columbus, throughout our downtown and throughout our neighborhoods. The conversations we had with our school superintendent about what to do with our children, about the coming together of all our leadership to address this crisis immediately. The second thing always remember about that day are the lives that were lost. Lost in New York, lost on those planes, and all the families that it impacted all the way to today. And the third thing is heroism. The heroism of our first responders, police and fire, who ran to the danger, and their lives lost as well. They are heroes. They're everyday heroes. And we don't show them enough appreciation for what they do for us, not just in times of national crisis, but every day. Our fire and our police. We thank them and appreciate them. And the biggest thing that I remember is that the day after 9/11, 9/12, I'd never seen our country come together in unity like that. It didn't matter if we were black or white, Democrat or Republican, conservative, liberal, Jew, Muslim. We were united as a nation, united as a city. And frankly, we've lost some of that. We need to get back that spirit that we had. And it took that crisis to bring us together. I was proud of our nation, proud of our first responders, proud of our people. And we lost lives not only in our states, but overseas. They went to Iraq and Afghanistan. And we appreciate our soldiers, our Marines, our service members for stepping up as well. This is an important day. This day 11 years ago changed my life. And I hope it changed your life as well. I'd like to present this proclamation to our first responders. Chief, if you come forward. I want you both to know, I'm saying this to each of you, how much we appreciate you individually, your command, and every single person that's working in a division of police and fire. We lost a lot of lives that day, but you saved a lot as well. I appreciate you and everything all of us does every day. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Excellent job as always. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my pleasure to bring to the booth here our County Commissioner, Ms. Paula Brooks.
Oh gosh, I was so moved, Mayor, by your description of that day. Each and every one of us have our own indelible memory. I was sitting in a restaurant off Tremont Road in Upper Arlington. I was on City Council then, but I was also on the Defense Advisory Committee for Women in the Services, Colonel. Serving with women and men throughout the country, looking after our men and women and families serving in the armed services here and overseas. And I've always appreciated our military members. I must say, I hadn't thought a lot about the protection that you all give us every single day, our firefighters, our police officers, our deputy sheriffs. I took that for granted. But that day, when my office staff called me and said, "Come back to the office, our country is under attack." Gosh, none of us knew what to think, and little did we know what was unfolding in New York City, in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and the Pentagon itself. One of my friends, who was a 50-year-old realtor from Ogden, Utah, was sitting in a meeting. She was on our committee. She was sitting in a meeting with a couple of generals in the E-ring of the Pentagon. A Marine came up to her and said, "Ma'am, run for your life." And she did. She said she couldn't see half of the way out. It was all dark and smoking, and she had no idea whether she'd get out or not. Because of firefighters in the Pentagon who were stationed there, and because of police officers outside, people were cared for that day. Nevertheless, we lost 184 people at the Pentagon that day, including the only general, General Maude, who was a friend of our committee, who perished that day. Mayor, you're right. That day changed all of us. We'll never forget, and we shouldn't ever forget. And finally, justice has been done, and we owe a great debt to our Navy SEALs. I'd like you all to give a round of applause. Thank them for the justice. And we thank President Obama for seeing that through as well. It's my honor to be here. I feel extremely humbled to be here in your presence. You all should be up here. We're only here to say thank you. We're only here to say we will stand with you, whatever you need to maintain the security of our city, our county, our state, our nation. God bless you. Godspeed. We know every single day your families make a sacrifice when you leave your homes. Thank you for doing that. We love you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you very much. And now I bring up Mr. Ben Famous from Senator Sherrod Brown's office.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here on behalf of the Senator. I probably should admit this, but this morning I was late to work. And I was late to work because I was watching, NBC had a tribute for this morning. It brought me back to 11 years ago today, where although I was not an elected official, I was actually in my freshman high school English class, watching the watching the events unfold, thinking that that for my generation is our Pearl Harbor. It's something that all of us remember. It's something that we all know where we were. Most of us probably were in high school that are my age. But it's something that has affected all of us in different ways. For me, it was the call to public service. I went to high school in a Catholic school, and we had always been told to look for signs of a higher calling, of something that was pulling you towards a service, whether that be the priesthood or somewhere different. And for me, it was really public service, of giving back. And in those 11 years since that day, I never would have envisioned being able to have had the opportunity to work with so many who really give their lives and give their service to our country. Whether it's John, who's an intern in our office currently, who is a veteran of OEF and OIF campaigns as a Black Hawk pilot, or having attended funerals of service members who came back. It's touching in every way possible, and it's something that I feel humble and very special to be a part of. For all of our first responders, thank you for everything you give on a daily basis. You do protect us, and we can't give enough to protect you as well. So on behalf of the Senator, thank you all, and that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate it very much. And now from Congressman Teaberry's office, Mr. Mark Bell.
Good afternoon. It is a great honor and humbling pleasure to be here with all of our first responders and the mayor and other officials, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you. Congressman regrets he could not attend in person, but as you know, Congress is in session, and I can assure you we've had a number of events in the Capitol this morning, remembering and honoring the events of 9/11 11 years ago. You know, it's believed that it's been 11 years since that terrible day, and not every generation, but every so often there's an event that marks a generation. Pearl Harbor was a day like that for people of the World War II generation. For those of you, and Ben, you're too young to remember this, who are over 40 will remember the Challenger explosion, one of the first times on television that we saw a national tragedy take place. 9/11 kind of combined both of those things. It was a foreign attack country, a terrible tragedy involving thousands of casualties. But it happened in front of us in real time on TV, which took that shock and made it even more real than an event like Pearl Harbor, where most people didn't witness it in person in real time. Like the mayor, I remember that morning, Pat was in office then. I had an early morning meeting outside the office. We were actually setting up the Morse Road project. I was at a breakfast meeting and driving back to our office when the first reports came out on WSU. They were very vague. And the first thing I thought of was 2 weeks before that, some knucklehead in an ultralight had clipped a small building in New York. And they didn't really say what it was. As more reports came in, it became more clear. No, this wasn't that. This was something much bigger. And I got back to my office just in time, like the mayor, to turn my TV on and see that second plane crash into the second tower. At that point, it was very clear what was going on. This was not an accident. This was an act of war or terrorism. And of course, then we had the plane that crashed into the Pentagon, and a little bit later in the afternoon, Flight 93 in Pennsylvania. For the rest of that day, we sat in shock watching that television. And one thing that was really odd to me, and I thought about it at the time, is normally in a congressional office when something happens, the phones just ring like crazy. Our phone practically never rang all day. People in Columbus were transfixed by their televisions, watching what had unfolded before them in shock. Now, the next day, the phones rang as people demanded action, that we do something. But that day, the horror of that day was so palpable that we could see on television what had happened and what these people had done to our country. December, right before Christmas this last year, I was in Italy attending an international military police school run by the Italian Carabinieri, and we had police officers, military police officers from 19 countries doing international policing training. One of the presenters showed a 10-minute clip on 9/11. Now, this has been over a decade. These are guys who every one of them has deployed multiple times and dealt with some pretty crazy stuff. At the end of that 10-minute clip, every one of these hard, tough MPs from all over the world, not just Americans, there were only 4 of us. The rest of them were all foreign troops, were in tears. It still has that power, that gripping power when you watch what happened that terrible day. You know, I hope, just as we do for Pearl Harbor today, still, after all these years, that every year from here on out, we don't forget. There's a human tendency as we get older and we forget and other things happen. But I hope that we don't do that, that we remember not just the people who died that were in the towers, but the heroism of our first responders. And like others before, I want to thank all of our police and fire there today for all that you do. It's not like your image had a problem prior to 9/11, but since then, the public has taken a loving for our first responders like never before, and certainly you deserve that. Those people on Flight 93, you know, I'll remember Let's Roll. By the time they got over Pennsylvania, they knew They had talked to their loved ones. They knew what was going on. They knew they probably weren't going to make it out. And they said, you know what? We're not going to let these guys take down another target. And we don't know for sure, but most folks think that Flight 93 was headed to either the White House or the Capitol. And those folks saved God knows how many thousands of lives by giving themselves up to do that. The final group that I think we should always remember, and I know Gunnery Sgt is here. Gunny, stand up and let folks take a look at you. Gunny is a former member of Lima Company, but more importantly today, he is the president of the Fallen Heroes Memorial. And just Saturday, we had a ceremony up in Sunbury where the Ohio Fallen Heroes Memorial is located, where we remembered all of the soldiers from Ohio who have given their lives since 9/11. And Gunny has made it his personal mission, along with the other members on his committee, to make sure that we never forget them. I have a T-shirt that I bought in Incirlik, Turkey when I was deployed in 2002. And I don't know who wrote this, but it shows a picture of a fireman holding a flag and a soldier reaching back. Have you guys seen it? I'll take it from here. And since then, our military, under leadership of both Republicans and Democrats, have gone out and we've made sure that the people who perpetrated this terrible act were captured or killed and that they were brought to justice. And in the process of that, we've lost a great many members of our military. I know that today isn't specifically focused at the military, but if you're a military member, current or past, stand up and let's give you applause for what you've done for our country as well. And I see some of our first responders are double dippers. They're in both that category. So twice for what you've done. So on this day, a day of sadness and remembrance, there's a lot to celebrate about what makes America great. Like the mayor, we saw an awesome coming together. One of the key memories that I have of the days right after that was when on Capitol steps, when they finally all got back there, Republicans and Democrats just spontaneously stood on the front steps and sang "God Bless America." And it was a beautiful moment, not because they sang great, because they didn't, but that all of our country came together to respond to a time of great crisis. Let us never forget, whether it be the victims of that day, our first responders who gave so much, or the military later who sacrificed all to bring these justice. As long as we live, let us always remember them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it, and we appreciate your service. Still serve in the reserve. And now, last but not least, please welcome from the Department of Veteran Services, Jason.
It's great to be here today. It's an honor to be here to remember our patriots and our fallen heroes and all veterans who have so valiantly. And also I bring greetings on behalf of Governor Kasich. My boss tells a story about his time in the Hanoi Hilton when he was there for 5 years. And he talks about his roommate, cellmate, calls him roommate, Myron. One day, his Vietnamese captors came and they pulled Colonel Mo from his cell and they tortured him for days, interrogated him and beat him severely. And when they were through with him, after days of torture, they threw him back in his cell. Kidneys badly damaged, his body was full of water, swelling. And they left him there to die. And Myron, his cellmate, was fading away from dysentery himself. They were freezing in the winter. And Myron went to Colonel Mo, and he said, "Colonel Mo, let me give you my crumbly bread and my grass soup, and you eat it, even though I'm starving to death and I'm dying before your eyes. You have it instead. Let me pop your ribs back into place with my fingers and take the shirt off my back in this freezing cold and tie them around you tightly so that you heal properly. Let me do that for you." And Myron that day, he chose to serve beyond himself. He chose to do what our first responders do to this day. And he said, "Let me put your welfare before my own." That's something that Americans have done in one way or another, either on the battlefield or here on the home front for generations. It's a proud It's a proud hallmark of our tradition. And I just want to say I'm so grateful to have such a fine first responders here in our city who protect us should something, God forbid, ever happen. And thank you for putting our welfare before yours. I have a proclamation on behalf of the governor that I just wanted to present to your city. I'm going to present it to Mayor Coleman. I'm not going to read it because it's long, but thank you very much for allowing me to be a part of this day. And God bless you. God bless our first responders, and God bless our veterans. Mayor Coleman, his family of service. I was proud, and myself and Gunnery Delgado were proud to serve with this son in Iraq and lead Company 325. So I just want to thank you again for our veterans, our military responders. God bless you.
Thank you, Jason. Appreciate your remarks. And now it is my pleasure to ask our special guest speaker to come to the front and speak on a subject he is very close to. Gunnery Sergeant Retired Shawn Delgado of Lima Company, 3rd Battalion, 25th Marines, will now give a remembrance speech.
I want to start off with a brief moment of levity. I'm not sure how our city is operating with everybody, all the chiefs here. Yeah, that's true. We do have good people. So I saw all the deputy chiefs stand, and I'm like, wait a minute, those are supposed to be chiefs are here. So when I was asked to speak, I was asked to talk September 11th, and what does it mean to me? And I put a lot of thought into it, and I guess the question really is, as individuals, what does September 11th mean to you? Has it caused us to be more vigilant? Has it caused us to be more aware? Has it caused us to be more committed? Has it caused us to be more considerate? And has it caused us to be more afraid? September 11th means different things to different people. To me, September 11th, 2001 was an experience that I will never, ever forget. I had just finished a training evolution in the Middle East, and we had gone to Australia so we could retrofit our equipment to get back out. We had just landed, and for those of I saw a lot of military folks, so you know when you do a hard training event, as soon as you land, you make your way to the bar. And we had just landed. All of our entire unit was there to get a good bite to eat and a good drink. And in Australia, if the lights turn on in a bar, somebody did something really wrong. And the lights all came on, the TVs all came on, and within an hour, all of our military personnel on all 3 ships were back at our ship. Within 6 hours, we were underway heading back to the Middle East. Within 20 days, we were on the ground fighting in Pakistan and the Middle East. And within a month and a half, we had secured a base right in the middle of the heart of Afghanistan. And Task Force 58 was at work. What does it mean to our country? The mayor kind of hit on a few things about our country and the unity. We were absolutely dedicated. We were absolutely unified in a goal. I hate to go against what other people are talking about, but justice has not been served. Justice has begun. The reason I say justice has begun is all the people associated with that attack have not been brought to justice. We've got to serve justice on every single person who knew about it, who helped plan it, who helped provide the equipment for it, who knew about it and didn't do a thing to stop it. Justice has begun. What does 9/11 mean to America? We hear a lot about loss. We hear a lot about the sacrifices of all of our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and our first responders. But I think for our generation, very much similar to Pearl Harbor, it also made us stand up a little straighter, because we did not know what our country was made of until that day. We do have backbone, and we do have resolve. We've been fighting the longest war in America's history since September 11th, 2001. And we haven't backed down a bit. We haven't lost a step, we haven't lost a stride, and we've gotten better every day. Our country is the strongest country in the world, and the rest of the world looks to us for strength. What does September 11th mean to the world? I want to talk to you a little bit about this, because in our world, it's easy to get caught in a bubble. It's easy to say, what has our country done? But I'm going to throw some facts out there to you that a lot of people don't realize, because it's hard for us to think globally. Since September 11th, in the Middle East, Iraq has a new democratic government. Iran has a very strong upswell right now with the Arab Spring protests and the democratic people of Iran trying to incorporate democratic government within their country. Syria, as you well know, is in the middle of conflict now to incorporate democratic government within their society. Tunisia already ousted their extremist Islamic government and has stood up a democratic government. Egypt has ousted President Mubarak and has stood up the newly elected government, elected by the people of Egypt. Libya has ousted Muammar Gaddafi, and the people of Libya are now free under a democratic government. Yemen has ousted their president, and elections were just held this year with a new democratic government. Simply put, our strength, our resolve, our intent to not allow criminals, to not allow terrorists to intimidate us has given hope to those who have always looked for another way to live, who did not know what hope was prior to us going into the Middle East to help bring people to justice. Not allowing others to lead in fear, and our quest to ensure that we track down and prosecuted those who committed this grievous act against America has given hope to the rest of the world. 9/11 means a lot to us, but 9/11 also means a lot to the world. As you heard Mark Bell talk about, people from all over the world at something, they saw the planes flying into the Twin Towers. That affects them just the same way it affects us. Those people who went to work that day did nothing to these crazy individuals except go to work that day and be a target of their assault. Us not allowing them to get away with it has given hope to the world. Us showing strength to the world is giving hope to the people that have always wanted a better life. If we can stay committed to being global leaders against terrorism, if we can stay committed to being the power that America has always shown itself to be, if we can stay committed to being the beacon of light that the rest of the world can look to for strength and hope and honor and change, they always have something to strive for. We've been the moral compass of the world, and sometimes it's not good to be that, and we don't like it, but we have to be it. Our first responders know what I'm talking about sitting in this room. You don't like to run into a burning building, but you have to do it. You don't like to run into a situation where people are shooting, but you have to do it. You don't like to be the moral of the world, but America, you have to do it. If you don't do it, who will? The only way we can continue to be the land of the free and the home of the brave is for us to pick up our pack, to strap on our boots, to pick up our guns, and to go forward and project that strength. And the only way we can do that and continue as a military to do that is the support that we get from our citizens. And we do get it. Thank you so much for allowing me to come today to speak to you and talk to you about what September 11th means to me. But please go away from here knowing what September 11th means to the world. Thank you.
You may be seated. Thank you, Gunny. Appreciate your words. Ladies and gentlemen, I promised you we'd be done in an hour. I'm keeping to my promise. I want you to go home tonight, and I want you to hug your kids, your loved ones, friends, call someone on the phone. Remember how it felt that day. Remember how special it is to have that person in your life. Thank you all for being here today. God bless you, and be careful going home. Goodbye. Seriously.